You're an ancient human. It's 20,000 years ago. There's no hospital, no antibiotics, no emergency number to call, no phone to call it on, and honestly, no one on the other end who could help you anyway. You've got a hard life, a short one, and a genuinely staggering number of ways it could end. And here's the twist most people get completely wrong. The worst way to die back then wasn't the one you're picturing right now. It wasn't the mammoth. It wasn't the saber-tooth. The thing most likely to end you was far less heroic, far more humiliating, and somehow far worse. So let's count them down. The worst ways to die as an ancient human, from bad all the way to the one that got almost everybody. Let's start near the bottom, which, in this case, still means dead. Number 7. The job. Hunting was how you ate, and it was also an excellent way to die. Picture it. You're chasing animals many times your size, on foot, armed with a sharpened stick, over rough ground you can't see properly. A bad fall, a kick from a wounded animal, a hunt that suddenly turns around and hunts you back. Trauma from accidents is one of the most common injuries we find written into ancient bones. You went out to get dinner, and every so often, dinner won. It was essentially the most dangerous commute in human history. Number 6 is the death everyone imagines, getting eaten. And yes, it happened. Big cats, cave bears, crocodiles the size of a canoe. The prehistoric world was full of things that were bigger than you, faster than you, and regarded you primarily as a snack with legs. Being dragged off by a predator was a real and genuinely terrifying way to go. But here's the detail that quietly ruins the drama. It wasn't even close to the top of this list. Getting eaten was rare enough that when it happened, people remembered it. They just couldn't write it down. And on the bright side, if there is one, it was usually fast. You were at least spared the slow stuff, which is more than we can say for everyone else on this list. Coming in at number 5, other humans. Turns out you didn't need a monster. Your neighbor would do the job just fine. We have a 33,000-year-old skull found in a cave in Romania, with a fracture that forensic analysis says was absolutely no accident. Someone caved this man's head in on purpose. Murder, it seems, is not a modern invention. It's one of our oldest hobbies. And in some cases, your fellow humans didn't stop at killing you. There's solid evidence of cannibalism scattered right across the Paleolithic, which means occasionally the person who ended your life also made dinner plans. Nothing says close-knit community quite like being both the victim and the main course. Number 4 is quieter and so much slower. Starvation. When you live entirely on what you can hunt or gather, a bad season isn't an inconvenience. It's a death sentence that arrives in slow motion. No harvest, no backup, no supermarket to bail you out. Just weeks of your own body slowly burning itself for fuel until there's nothing left to burn. There's no villain, no single dramatic moment. Just a long, quiet fade to nothing. And somehow, the deaths without a monster in them are the bleakest ones of all. Number 3 was, for half of all humans who ever lived, the single most dangerous thing they would ever do: having a baby. There were no C-sections, no sterile tools, no way to fix it, if anything at all, went wrong. Childbirth was a leading cause of death for women across almost the entire history of our species. And when it went badly, it frequently took both the mother and the child at once. Think about that. The single act of creating the next generation was one of the most reliable ways to be removed from this one. Let that one sit for a second. Now we're getting into the genuinely horrifying territory. Number 2, a tiny, stupid injury. A scratch, a splinter, a bad tooth. In a world with no antibiotics, a small cut wasn't small. It was a countdown. Bacteria get in, the wound turns hot and swollen, and then the infection creeps inward, day after day, while you burn with fever and everyone around you can do absolutely nothing but watch. And here's the truly humbling part. One of the most common causes of death we can actually read in ancient bones is the humble tooth abscess, an infected tooth that spread into the jaw and killed its owner. So picture it. Somewhere out there, an ancient human survived the predators, survived the famine, survived the wars, and was finally taken down by a cavity, a death sentence, delivered by a molar. And that brings us to number one. The single worst way to die as an ancient human. Worst not because it was the most dramatic, but because it was the most common, the most undignified, and the one quietly waiting for almost everybody. It wasn't the saber-tooth. It wasn't the war club. It was diarrhea. I'm completely serious. Scientists estimate that infectious disease caused roughly 3/4 of all deaths in the Paleolithic, and a huge share of that was diarrheal disease caused by nasty little organisms like the ancient ancestors of E. coli and Salmonella. So here's the full, humiliating picture. You spend your entire short life dodging lions. You survive childbirth. You survive the wars, the famine, the infected tooth, and then one day you eat something slightly wrong. And over the next few days, your own body wrings itself out until there is nothing left. And you die. Not in glorious combat, not fighting a beast, but on the ground beside a river, having lost a fight to an enemy you couldn't even see. That is the real worst way to die as an ancient human. Not because it hurt the most, but because it was almost impossible to escape, and there was nothing heroic about it whatsoever. Now, let's be honest for a second, because the internet loves to butcher this part. You've probably heard that ancient humans only lived to about 30, and technically, on average, that's roughly true. But that number is a lie of mathematics. It's dragged down brutally by one thing: infant mortality. So many babies died in their first year that they crushed the entire average downward. But if you actually survived childhood, if you dodged every death on this list long enough to become an adult, you had a genuinely decent shot at reaching your 40s, your 50s, sometimes older. Ancient humans didn't all just drop dead at 30, it's that a horrifying number of them never got the chance to start. And maybe that's the strangest thing to sit with. Almost every single death on this list, the infection, the tooth, the diarrhea, the childbirth, is one we have simply solved. The number one killer of the human race, the thing that terrified our ancestors for 2 million years, is now handled by clean water and a bar of soap. The infected tooth that once meant certain death is now a mildly annoying afternoon at the dentist. We didn't become stronger than our ancestors, or braver, or tougher. We just quietly removed, one by one, almost every way the world used to kill us. Until the things that were once the entire end of the story became things we barely think about at all. So the next time you drink a glass of water without a single second thought, remember this. For almost everyone who ever lived before you, that glass of water was one of the most dangerous things in the world. And you just want to fight your ancestors spent 2 million years losing.